Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shekhar Shah. I'm the Director General of NCER, the National Council of Applied Economic Research. And it's a pleasure to have you with us this morning at the inaugural workshop launch for a series of workshops organized by NCER and the Investor Education and Protection Fund Chair, Dr. K.P. Krishnan, who is with us at NCER, on investor education and protection. We will hear from Dr. Krishnan about the work that is planned in this area. And of course, with great pleasure, we await the keynote address by the RBI Governor, Shri Shaktikanta Das, who we have the great pleasure of having with us. I'll introduce him in a minute after we have the introduction to the work by Dr. Krishnan. Let me just say, in terms of some opening remarks, that the post-pandemic recovery that we are now hopefully witnessing is opening up a range of possibilities that otherwise might have taken years to achieve. The digitalization of India that has happened in the last 9-10 months possibly would have taken maybe 9-10 years or more. And the innovation is the mother of necessity. And following that dictum, we certainly have responded very positively. And in particular, financial transactions have entered into segments of society, digital financial transactions have entered into segments of society that otherwise we might not have thought of. This opens up a tremendous opportunity for both investor protection as well as investor education. And I'm just absolutely delighted that NCER is putting up these workshops with financial regulators, researchers, public policy analysts, who will all gain from a discussion of the kind of work that is envisaged in the new strategy that we have been looking at in terms of the Financial Education 2025. This is the cornerstone that we are building this workshop series around. And we are hoping very much that through these discussions with the various financial regulators, public policy analysts, researchers, will emerge both a priority set of actions to be taken, as well as research ideas for things that institutions like NCER and others might pursue, and the type of data that might be collected in that process, which will be vital for supporting these priority actions. I don't want to take up too much time. Let me turn, therefore, to the introduction to the work of the IPF chair at NCER by Dr. K.P. Krishnan. Krishnan hardly needs any introduction to this audience. He is now the IPF chair professor at NCER in regulatory economics. The chair has been established with the generous support of the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority. And I'm delighted to see Manoj Pandey here, who is the CEO of the IPFA. He leads a group that is focused on research and policy outreach in the broad area of regulatory and public economics, with the primary concern, of course, on investor protection and the financial sector reforms. He's also going to be commenting and helping us on land policy and records, public finance, public administration, using his background in law, economics, and in financial management. As we all know, he recently stepped down from the Indian Administrative Services Secretary, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and of course, prior to that, has had many fruitful years in the Ministry of Finance. With that, let me turn over to Dr. Krishnan and request him to give us a description of the work program of his chaired unit. Dr. Krishnan.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Respected Governor Shri Das, Senior EA, Ministry of Finance, Dr. Saxena, Joint Secretary, Corporate Affairs, Shri Manoj Pandey, ED, SEBI, and Chairman of the National Center for Financial Education, Shri Garg, and of course, my own DG, Dr. Shah. It's my privilege to be joining Dr. Shah in welcoming all of you, especially Governor Shri Das. Sir, we all know the demands on your time. In the midst of multiple pressing matters requiring your attention and requiring your personal attention, you have very graciously agreed to deliver this keynote in this webinar, primarily because of the importance that you attach to the subject of consumer protection in finance, investor education, and financial literacy generally. In addition, if I may, sir, with your permission, mention that you have always been a very kind and affectionate colleague. Besides the commitment to the consumer protection agenda, I'm sure this reflects your generosity to someone who has spent many years with you as a junior colleague, first as a JS and then as an additional secretary. I personally and on behalf of NCAER would like to thank you for doing this, sir. It's very important for us and we genuinely appreciate this. Quickly, sir, from a financial system that was almost entirely dominated by banks and close to 75-80% of them owned by government, India, as we all know, has moved towards creating markets and financial products. Though underway in a sort of slow pace from earlier, this process really gathered speed after 1991. And as we speak today, it's undeniable that India has a substantial market in almost all the subsectors of finance, namely credit, securities, pensions, and insurance. In addition, there are relatively newer activities like payment systems, and all these markets have one common characteristic, and that is the shifting of the responsibility of the financial health and well-being to the individual. The Mai Baap Sarkar taking care of all aspects of an individual and household's financial health is truly a thing of the past. This is not to say that the state does not play a role, but only to point out that the individual has much greater responsibility for her own financial health and well-being. And this extends all the way from choice of bank accounts, what kind of investments to make, how to finance assets like housing, personal health insurance, old age income security, to financial security for dependents post the life of an individual. In this market-dominated financial world, typically, sir, as we are all aware, sellers have all the information and buyers typically have very little information. Further, the information that the buyers have is ordinarily what the sellers provide in their self-interest. This information asymmetry is at the root of potential market failures in finance. Further, this gets accentuated by the asymmetry of power between sellers and buyers. In addition, there are some structural barriers to entry, making the financial sector consumer more vulnerable than consumers elsewhere. The case, therefore, for regulation of the financial sector flows fundamentally from this need to protect the consumer. The essential requirement for consumer protection, as we all know, and for consumer protection to succeed as a regulatory measure is an educated and knowledgeable consumer. Financial literacy, therefore, at a basic level, and investor education as the consumer climbs up the financial ladder is a sine qua non for the success of financial regulation in achieving the objective of consumer protection. However, and this is something I'm sure Governor Das now knows after his couple of years in the RBI, I think it's very useful to remember that a prudential regulator is required to strike a very difficult balance between increasing the likelihood that financial promises are kept and being perceived as the underwriter of those promises. The investing public may perceive the regulator as implicitly guaranteeing the creditworthiness of regulated institutions. Ironically, the regulator is perversely exposed to its own performance. The better its track record in preventing failure, the more likely the public is to regard the regulator as guaranteeing the underlying promises. I think, sir, the FSDC subcommittee under your chair and the RBI under your stewardship has handled this moral hazard and struck that absolute right balance in the operations and, more importantly, in the strategy document that is going to be the cornerstone of our discussions. As you are aware, sir, the IPFA in its statutory mandate, as well as the FSDC in the government notification of 2010, has the sort of primacy given to financial literacy and financial inclusion. The endeavor of the IPF chair and the unit established in NCAER with the support of IPFA, as mentioned by my DG, is to undertake evidence-based research in this area and contribute to the fulfillment of the objectives of a better educated and better protected financial consumer. In conclusion, sir, I would like to once again say that the chair unit is privileged that the first public event of this unit is a webinar on investing in investor education being launched with a keynote address by the governor, who, as the chair of the FSDC subcommittee, approved the National Strategy on Financial Education on June 19, 2020, in the 24th meeting of the subcommittee. This, coupled with the recent release of the final report on the survey results of financial literacy and inclusion in India by the NCFE, are key milestones and important developments in this domain. Sir, our effort over the next few months will be to hold intense workshops with each individual regulatory agency and experts and consumer activists to discuss these two documents in depth and flesh out the sector-specific action plan for their implementation. And, sir, with your permission, be able to present a consolidated action plan to you, time permitting and your multifarious engagements permitting, as chair of the FSDC subcommittee, to present a consolidated action plan. I look forward to your continued guidance and support in this and other activities of the unit as well as NCAER. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Krishnan, for that wonderful exposition of our plans for the unit that you head. It is now my great privilege to introduce the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Shri Shaktikanta Das, the 25th RBI Governor, with nearly 40 years of experience in finance, taxation, investment, and infrastructure. As we know, he's previously served as the Revenue Secretary and Secretary of Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Finance. He's been a member of the 15th Finance Commission, part of the RBI Central Board, the board of the SEBI, and of course, India's alternate governor at the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the New Development Bank, and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. He's led innumerable delegations across the world and represented India at various international fora such as the IMF, the G20, BRICS, and SAARC. Most importantly, he has led the RBI in one of India's worst economic downturns. December represents the 2 years of his joining the RBI. And in these 2 years, as the editorial in the Financial Express said the other day, these were 2 extremely well-spent years. He has led the country using imaginative monetary policy, being able to read the tea leaves, being able to read the markets, and being able to respond in ways in which perhaps today, sir, you are clearly seen as the architect of the recovery and a primary person that we are depending on, both in the increase of liquidity that you undertook under your guidance, as well as now your ability to manage this process so that we not only have good growth, but also reasonable prices and control over inflation, and the ability to sustain a rapid recovery after this pandemic. It's a great privilege to have you with us. You follow in the long line of governors that NCR has had the privilege of working with. C.D. Deshmukh was the founding father of NCR, and I counted we'd had 6 governors as part of our governing body, including I.G. Patel, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Bimal Jalan, R.N. Malhotra, and Subba Rao. So it's a great privilege to have you with us, Governor, and I request you to deliver your keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's extremely, it really gives a good feeling to see so many familiar faces. I mean, people with whom I have worked, people whom I have known for last so many years. And thank you, Dr. Shekhar Shah, for that very nice introduction. And thank you, Krishnan, for very, sort of summarizing the major issues that we have before us. Krishnan did mention that we work together in North Block. He has been a very good friend and a colleague in the North Block for years. And we have spent hours and hours together in having serious discussions and not so serious chats also from time to time. But good to see all of you really, and I also note the presence of several senior officials from Government of India. I'm told the chairman IBBI is also present. There's here the executive director SEBI is here, and Mr. Manoj Pandey, the CEO of IEPFA, he is also present. I can see Mr. Shashank Vide, who's a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Reserve Bank of India. He's also present. So a very warm good morning to all of you. Now, I wish to at the outset thank NCAR for inviting me to deliver the keynote address in this webinar on National Strategy for Financial Education. Now, Dr. Krishnan, KP Krishnan said that, he was thanking me for participating in this. And he was sort of saying that it's a kind of a gesture, personal gesture. Yes, it is a personal gesture, no doubt. But I think the bigger issue is that this is an important topic, and I considered it worthwhile, worth my time. I considered it very much, worthwhile to participate in an event like this, because among the multifarious objectives, among the multifarious areas with which Reserve Bank is concerned, whether it is monetary policy or financial sector stability or managing the payment and settlement systems, I think financial inclusion is one of the major areas on which the Reserve Bank is concerned. Financial inclusion, financial education, financial literacy. I mean, there's an overlap between the two, or rather, as OECD says, financial education is a component of financial literacy, but whatever, leaving out the semantics. I think the area of financial inclusion and financial education are very, very important from the perspective of our economic growth and from the perspective of maintaining financial stability or stability of the financial sector. Because the stability of any sector is built upon trust, and financial education can only promote that the participants in the financial, the individual, the citizen of the country has trust in the financial sector. I therefore appreciate the thoughtful initiative of the NCAR in choosing this topic for the webinar. As we inch towards the close of what has been an unprecedented year in terms of lives and livelihood and the way of living in general, it would be appropriate to look at the area of financial inclusion and literacy, which has broad level implications, as I mentioned, for financial stability, as also micro connotation towards an individual's financial well-being. India, with a large section of population in the working age group, is all in the in the working age group is already the third largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity and is aiming to become a US $5 trillion economy. The government has been undertaking a series of calibrated macro measures through wide ranging of structural reforms. We need to harness the demographic dividend by meeting the aspirations of a large young population. This necessitates creating an enabling environment and infrastructure in the form of education, training, and opportunity. Among all the prerequisites for achieving demographic dividend and accelerated growth, the quality of human resource, the greater formalization of economy, a higher credit to GDP ratio, and greater financial inclusion are the differentiating factors that would elevate our economy to the desired level. To improve credit to GDP ratio, access to credit and cost of credit need to be addressed by lesser reliance on collateral security and greater cash flow based lending. Credit bureaus and proposed public credit registry framework are expected to improve the flow of credit as well as the credit culture. As regards financial inclusion, a number of steps have been taken by the government and the Reserve Bank of India and also by the other regulators. As a result, large and hitherto excluded sections of population have been brought into the formal financial fold. In this context, promoting and deepening financial education would play a very important part in our endeavor to realize our collective potential. Let me now touch upon some of the financial inclusion initiatives which have been taken so far, and I'll try to do that very briefly. Financial inclusion initiatives, as you know, in our country started in the aftermath of the first All India Rural Credit Survey of 1954 with the promotion of cooperatives, followed later on by expansion of branch network after nationalization of major private sector banks, and going forward by other initiatives like the launching of the lead bank scheme, promotion of self-help groups, JLGs, implementation of banking correspondent BC model, expansion of banking outlets, creation of payments banks, small finance banks, etc. All these initiatives of which I mentioned, of course, have their varying degrees of success, and also some of them have witnessed deficiencies or shortfall from time to time, which the system and the authorities have tried to correct. But they have had varying degrees of success or not, varying degrees of success and effectiveness. The largest impact in recent years came from opening of the Jan Dhan accounts and implementation of the Prime Minister's Mudra Yojana. The launch of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana in 2014 has resulted in almost every household having access to formal banking services, along with a platform for availing low-value credit, insurance, and pension schemes. This has been supported by initiatives to ensure last-mile delivery of banking services through innovative banking channels like the banking correspondent model. Thanks to technology, there has been massive improvement in deepening of digital financial services. The Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, or what is called the JAM ecosystem, has made a significant difference in the universe of financial inclusion. Further, several initiatives have been taken for creation of enabling digital infrastructure at the ground level and accelerate the progress towards universalizing digital payments in a convenient, safe, secure, and affordable manner. Among those, the pilot project launched by the Reserve Bank of India in October last year, that is in October 2019, to make one identified district in every state or union territory 100% digitally enabled is significant. In addition to putting in place the necessary digital ecosystem, focused attention by stakeholders on imparting financial education to the target groups will also go a long way towards fulfilling the objectives of the pilot and provide a blueprint for scaling of similar initiatives to other districts. So as you can see, we have mandated the banks to work together and to at least ensure that one district per state or per union territory is made 100% digitally enabled. So that will kind of create, not only give, not only ensure deepening of digital payments, but it also needs a lot of awareness creation, needs a lot of financial education. And this entire thing is a part of the initiative, which we have asked, which we have, mandated the banks to work together and undertake. In every district, the lead is taken by the SLBC of that particular state, or the lead banker of the particular district. The Financial Stability and Development Council, that is the FSDC, approved the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion (NSFI) document, which was launched by the Reserve Bank earlier this year on 10th January 2020. The NSFI envisions to make financial services available, accessible, and affordable to all citizens in a safe and transparent manner to support inclusive growth. Now, I have so far, in my whatever I have spoken, I have mainly highlighted on the aspect of financial inclusion and its. Let me now turn more specifically to financial education. Now, this is an important policy agenda, I think, for not only the government, but also for all financial sector regulators. And I think it is important for every stakeholder, for everyone who is interested, that the country should do well and our financial sector continues to remain robust and meets the requirements of an aspiring population. With greater financial inclusion, there is a need to enhance customer protection and financial education so that people continue to access the formal financial services without hesitation. Needless to add that financial education plays a vital role in creating demand-side response by enabling greater awareness and access to appropriate financial products and services through regulated entities. Dr. Krishnan, in fact, referred to these demand-side issues and the awareness of the consumer, because there is what you call he alluded to some lack of level playing field between the supply side and the demand side players. And in this area, I think financial education can really empower and strengthen the awareness levels of the demand side players and stakeholders. Financial resilience of individuals and their families can also be strengthened through financial education. To achieve these multiple objectives, several steps have been taken. Let me touch upon two such specific initiatives. The first one I would refer to is the setting up of the National Center for Financial Education, NCFE. The NCFE has been set up by the 4 financial sector regulators, that is, the RBI, the SEBI, the IRDA, and the PFRDA, to promote financial education across India for all sections of the population as per the National Strategy for Financial Education. This national strategy undertakes financial education campaigns across the country through seminars, workshops, conclaves, training programs, campaigns, etc., to help people manage money more effectively and achieve financial well-being in the process. The other initiative that we have mentioned, I would like to refer to it very briefly, is the Center for Financial Literacy, the CFL project, which is an innovative way to impart financial education through community approach. The CFL project, that is the Center for Financial Literacy, CFL project, has been conceptualized by the Reserve Bank in 2017 as an innovation and participatory approach to financial literacy at the block level, involving select banks and NGOs. Initially set up in 100 blocks on a pilot basis, the project is now being scaled up across the country to every block in a phased manner by March 2024. So it is our target that in the next 3 years and a few months, we will be able to have these centers for financial literacy in every block of in the country. And it's an ambitious target, but we have drawn up comprehensive plan. And this requires participation from civil societies, from NGOs, from research institutions, from educational institutions, from industries, local industries and associations. Now, in fact, this program to achieve 100% coverage by March 24 was announced by me on 4th December 2020, just very recently in my MPC statement. Going forward, the project is envisaged to change the paradigm of financial inclusion as well as education by ensuring greater involvement and receptibility of the community on the demand side so as to align with the expansion of institutional initiatives on the supply side. Now, the COVID-19 related nationwide lockdown had posed some restrictions in our efforts towards financial education. But thanks to technology and, we have used the digital media, including, the kind of interaction, for example, we are having now, the webinar, we have used mass media, including television, local radio. We have reached out to local school education boards, training missions of self-help groups, and, through a kind of a participatory approach, we have kept all these efforts towards financial education going, even amidst the lockdown and the COVID-19 related restrictions. Now, financial education is indeed one of the strategic pillars which sets the broad context for the National Strategy for Financial Education 2020 to 25. The National Strategy for Financial Education has set an ambitious vision of creating a financially aware and empowered India. It focuses on various aspects of financial education across banking, insurance, pension, investments, through greater role of financial institutions, both banks and non-banks, educational institutions, industries, bodies, and other stakeholders. In order to reach out to various target groups, we are involving the local MSMEs, the schools, and the other segments of the other organizations in various places. And further, we are trying to customize the products also and the approaches to meet the requirements of various segments of society, like, let's say, the women or the young persons, the illiterate persons. That is also being undertaken. So if you see that we are trying to sort of design the products for financial education to reach out to wider cross-section of the people. Further, due emphasis has also been given to safe uses of digital financial services in this whole process. The strategy includes a 5C approach, and the 5 C's are focused on content, capacity of the content of the the entire program, capacity of the intermediaries, community-based approach, communication strategy, and collaboration among various stakeholders. What I propose to do is that, for the sake of time, we are going to upload this, my copy of my speech. We are going to upload it in the RBI website during the course of today, so it can be accessed. And for those of you who are interested. Now, let me come to conclusion and also touch upon the way forward. Financial inclusion in the country is poised to grow exponentially with digital savvy millennials joining the workforce, social media blurring the urban-rural divide, and technologies shaping the policy interventions. Going forward, harnessing the near universal reach of bank accounts across the length and breadth of the country, there needs to be greater focus on penetration of sustainable credit, investment, insurance, and pension products by addressing demand-side constraints with enhanced customer protection. The interventions of financial education would have to be customized. I mentioned about it here, for example, customized in local languages and local settings, keeping the different target audience in mind. The scaling up of the Center for Financial Literacy Project, CFL, across the country at the block level would be the cornerstone of community-led participatory approaches in our journey towards greater financial literacy. Technology, though being an enabler, though being a great enabler, can also lead to exclusion of certain segments of society. it is imperative to build trust in formal financial services among the hitherto excluded population. Adequate safeguards need to be reinforced to address issues of cybersecurity, data confidentiality, mis-selling, customer protection, and redress of grievances through appropriate financial education and awareness. These cast great responsibility on financial education providers. To conclude, I would like to say that in a large country like ours with an aspiring population, financial education cannot remain just the responsibility of the financial regulators. This aspect is highlighted in the NSFE document, which recommends a multi-stakeholder-led approach to achieve financial well-being of all. Going forward, increasingly educational institutions, industry bodies, and other stakeholders like think tanks, research institutions like NCAER should come forward to shoulder the responsibility of increasing financial literacy through appropriate awareness campaigns. I invite every such person and institution to be associated with our mission of nation building through creation of a financially aware and empowered India. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Governor Shaktikanta Das ji. It's very kind of you both to provide us such exhaustive guidance and your own thinking, as well as the RBI's strategy on this. I believe that we are at the start of a new movement in financial protection and education. And it's wonderful that you have spared us the time in your busy morning to be with us and guide us. I'm sure that these words of guidance will prove very fruitful, and we hope very much to keep you abreast of developments both in our small unit at NCER, but more widely through the course of these intense meetings that Dr. Krishnan has arranged and is arranging, where we hope that at the end of the process, we will come up with priority actions that can help the NSFE and the national strategy take root. With that, I thank you again. I know you have a very busy morning. Please stay with us if you can, but otherwise, we wish to thank you and take your leave and really appreciate the time that you have given. Dr. Krishnan will definitely want to keep in touch with you and keep you abreast of our developments.
Thank you once again, and namaskar to all of you. I wish excellent. I'm quite sure that in the next session, I was looking at your program. I think you have another session which has very key participants. So all my best wishes, and we will be supportive to all the future endeavor and future initiatives that NCAER proposes to take in this area. Thank you once again for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaktikanta ji.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you. May I now request Dr. Krishnan to introduce our next speaker, Shri Garg, who is the Executive Director at SEBI, and then we will have a presentation by Shashank Saxena and then Manoj Pandey to complete the second part of the session this morning. So, Dr. Krishnan.
Thank you, Shekhar. It's my privilege to introduce my old colleague from SEBI, Mr. G.P. Garg. Garg Sahab is at present Executive Director at the Securities Exchange Board of India. And more important for what we are discussing today, he is also the chairman of the National Center for Financial Education. He serves as the nominee of the SEBI on the Board of Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority, the IEPFA, which is the statutory body created under Section 123, I think, of the Companies Act. Mr. Garg is the SEBI nominee. His current SEBI portfolio includes managing the Office of Investor Assistance and Education and the Departments of Information Technology and General Services. He has previously managed the departments of Treasury and Accounts and also served as the Central Public Information Officer at SEBI. He was instrumental in launching the SEBI Complaints Redressal System, the toll-free helplines, and the system of financial education through empaneled resource persons. He has played a crucial role in establishing the NISM. By training, he is an engineer who subsequently also did degrees in law and management. It's now my privilege, Mr. Garg, to request you to deliver your address on NCFE and its role in financial education and investor protection. Over to you, sir. You're muted, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krishnan, and respected Dr. Shekhar Shah, Director General, NCR. Dr. Krishnan, sir, I want to convey thanks and acknowledge for organizing this wonderful webinar. Shri Shashank Saxena ji, Senior Economic Advisor, DA and Secretary, FSDC, and Shri Manoj Pandey, Joint Secretary, MCA, and CEO, IPFA. Respected ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everyone. It's really a matter of privilege, and I want to once again convey my gratitude on behalf of National Center for Financial Education to Dr. Krishnan and CR for arranging this webinar on National Strategy for Financial Education, a very important topic close to our heart. And I have the privilege of representing NCFE in this webinar. As Governor Sir mentioned in the beginning, what is financial literacy to begin with? Why this center? So financial literacy is basically a combination of knowledge, attitude, and behavior to make sound financial decisions. And ultimately, it leads to the financial well-being of individuals. So this is how we defined financial literacy. And to achieve this goal, this National Center for Financial Education has been set up, and it's a Section 8 company set up in 2018. And it works under the subcommittee of FSDC, which guides how this centers and its policies and its strategies. As Governor Sir also mentioned that earlier we had a policy, this National Strategy for Financial Education, we came with a document in 2013. And thereafter, it was to be revised sometime in 2018, but we finally, came with a new strategy in 2020, which talks about 5 C's, that what is that this center should focus on. So this center should focus on content, capacity, community, communication, and collaboration, because these are the areas from which the center should begin its activities. And before NCFE, this NSFE, National Strategy for Financial Education, we also conducted a national level survey on state of financial literacy and inclusion. And if I pick up from the survey, this survey tells us some very interesting facts. For example, only 23% of urban and 24% of rural population in country are financially literate. So, and there is also again a disparity. It means this 29% of male population, 21% of female population, and overall only 27% of Indians are financially literate. So we can see the general literacy in the country, which is over 80%, but when it comes to the financial literacy, only 27% of Indians are financially literate. There was also an interesting fact which came during this survey, that when we asked that why do you don't invest in the financial products, what is there, why you are not putting, so 33% of the respondents said that it is because of lack of knowledge or lack of awareness. So this shows that how important financial education is if we want that our countrymen should put their savings into financial assets. So one of the big, I'll say one of the second most important reason was lack of financial awareness or lack of financial knowledge. So this is how it started. This survey is one of the very important finding. Now, what is this National Center for Financial Education is doing? So one of the reasons we found that lack of knowledge is because financial education is not part of the school curriculum. We do not actually have some of the important topics as our school curriculum. So currently, if we see, most of our books have so many topics, but when it comes to the financial education, the lack of topics or lack of these subjects and the way new products and services are coming, this topic has become very, very important. And I think the time has come that we look it seriously, that how our future generations are not deprived of this important financial education, and which becomes their important life skill. So I would like to urge everyone here that the time has come then where we have to find the ways and means to include these topics as part of school curriculum. Currently, ICSE, CBSE, and 28 state boards follow NCERT syllabus. So we are in touch with NCERT, in whatever way we could convince them. And we are sure that with our efforts, because this national curriculum is revised periodically, we should be able to do significant progress in years to come. But in the meantime, if I say that overall financial education, we are divided into three parts: basic, sectoral, and product. So basic is, basic financial concepts, I would say. Sectoral means banking or insurance or securities market or pension, and finally product education. So NCFE is focusing on basic financial education. So that is where the NCFE role is currently more focused, that let us start with basic financial education, because when it comes to sectoral financial education, that is being done by the regulators, and product financial education is done by the intermediary under the guidance of SEBI or Reserve Bank of India about the product knowledge. So that is how we have been moving in this direction. As far as schools are concerned, because it is not part of formal financial education, NCFE has been trying that at least this should be part of one of the SUPW activity. It means this is one of the extra activities which all schools are allowed. And whenever we go to the schools, they always ask for 3-4 things that you're asking for financial education, but how do we implement it? So they need content, they need training of the teachers. They also need the sensitization of management or, education boards. And then how do we implement it? So NCFE has been able to make significant progress in all 4 areas. We have, in consultation with CBSE board, have prepared financial education books for class 6 to 10. And these books, basically, we call it books, but they are the different topics, and we are not asking them as a separate subject. You just introduce some of these topics within the existing books. So something can be introduced in civics, something in English, something in mathematics, and it will achieve the desired result. We don't want that it should be a separate subject. So that is the first step. Second, we have started a financial education training program for the teachers, because we realize that unless teachers are competent, teachers are aware of what these topics are, there will be a lot of resistance. So I'm very happy to say so far 6,000 teachers across the country NCFE has trained, and these 6,000 teachers are from across the country. So once a teacher is trained, that teacher takes further responsibility to teach these subjects in their respective schools. So this has played a very crucial role. And we have also tried that why not we certify school as a whole as money smart schools. So what we are trying, that we say that, okay, these subjects you teach as a part of SUPW activities. And thereafter, we are providing the schools some kind of assessment sheet also. And all the students who pass that examination, they are also issued a certificate by NCFE. It has made a lot of difference, and I'm very happy to say that once significant number of students are able to complete that test, we also certify that school as money smart school. So this is the next stage. And as we all know, the principals of the school play very, very critical role if anything is to be introduced. NCFE has been every year conducting national level, conclave for the principals, and we are able to, sensitize large number of principals of these schools, and they also realize that how important financial education is for their students. And I'm very happy to say that that has been a significant achievement of NCFE to include this financial education topics on voluntary basis. This year, due to COVID, we are not able to do this test and the national level ceremony. We also conducted National Financial Literacy Assessment Test. This is one of the biggest tests, I'll say, anywhere in the world, because the test reached to the level of almost 3 lakhs students from all parts of the country participating. And normally we feel that the talented in respect of finance is more in the western part of the country. But once this test was introduced, we realized that there is so much enthusiasm among the students to appear for the test, which is in 3 stages. We have a National Financial Literacy Test Junior, then we have a National Financial Literacy Test for students up to class 10, and Senior Test. And this year, we are requesting the schools that please conduct this test for your students within your schools, and will be, giving the certificates to all of you. Now, coming to the adults, again, that NCFE has come with a program which is called Financial Education for Adults. So what we have done is that we have trained resource persons across the country. Basically, they are the resource persons SEBI has trained, and they are basically from they are teachers, or they are government servant, bankers, and these teachers on behalf of NCFE conduct programs in respect of basic financial education for large number of target groups. Very happy to say this year alone we have close to 60,000 participants covered through different programs under this particular initiative. Another programs we have taken this year, that is financial awareness and consumer training. As I mentioned, that we have seen that among the millenniums, or those who are joining the jobs, or those who are about to join the job, the biggest problem is again lack of financial awareness and knowledge about the products. So basically it is for, we used to call it your first paycheck, or what do you do when you get your first pay. It tells you that probably from the day one you have to do your financial planning. So this program is again very, very successful. And when it is for the MBA colleges, IITs and all, every year large number of students we are covering under this initiative which we have undertaken. COVID-19 has also thrown big challenges that you can't have in-person programs. So how do you reach to the large number of population, and you conduct large number of population can be benefited? So we have come with the idea of what we call electronic e-learning management system. So there are large number of modules which have been designed on all topics relating to financial education, and one can register on NCFE website, and at your convenience, wherever you are, you can get benefited. And there is also a certification process. So if you want to take further test on this, that is also possible. And I'm very happy to say that this initiative has not only been highly appreciated, but has also been used to train the trainers. The trainers can also be trained under this system, which is quite useful. Another initiative which NCFE has taken is digital signage systems, or we call it a multimedia displays in the banks, post office, or in the say railway stations, or in the lobby of a hospital across the country. So we came with the idea of 100 kiosks. They look like a ATM kind of machine, but when you touch it, you can actually get knowledge about any subject. So again, a very interested thing to do, by which we are able to reach large number of population. And I'm sure that in future, we will do much more in this area. So as you can see, in a short span of time, NCFE came into formally in existence in 2018. A lot of progress has been made, but we have just mentioned that for a country like India, it's not at all sufficient, and we all have to put our efforts together. In future, we are, as I mentioned, our priority is that if we can approach large number of state boards or central boards to put these financial education topics in a formal school curriculum, so that at least for our students, which is important part of the society, and they will make huge difference when it comes to the saving and investments, are not deprived of this important life skill. Second, our area is that we do specialized programs for adults, and because the large number of target groups have been identified by NCFE, so we are designing the specific contents for them, so that one can download these contents from NCFE website and can be used, and they need not look for what to teach. So this is how NCFE has been doing. And next area is, as Governor Sir mentioned, that we will focus on these 5 C's, which will on the basis of which these programs should be taken in future. So while setting up of NCFE is a landmark decision by the regulators, I think there is a need for further strengthening of both human and financial resources of NCFE, and NCFE will come with specific plans in future to cover large population to ensure that we make rapid progress in making every Indian financially aware and empowered. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Garg Saab, for that very comprehensive coverage of the NCFE activities. I know that you have a full board meeting today, and despite that, as I mentioned earlier, thanks to your interest in the subject and the importance that NCFE attaches to this event, I am glad you could take some time off your board meeting and join us. On behalf of everybody here, my personal thanks to you. Now, with the permission of my DG and all of you assembled here, I will call upon Dr. Shashank Saxena to speak about the role of the sort of the prime mover behind a lot of these activities is the FSDC. And Shashank currently is the secretary of the FSDC. He is senior economic advisor in the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and as was mentioned earlier, secretary of the FSDC. He is an Indian Economic Service Officer of the 1987 batch and has considerable experience in policy reforms in the areas of agricultural price policy, capital markets, external commercial borrowings, banking sector, pension reforms, and state finance across various central ministries. He has published on a variety of financial matters in various edited books and publications. He holds a master's degree in economics and macroeconomic policy and planning for developing countries. He also holds an LLB and a PhD in agricultural economics. And with his permission, I may just let you know about a little thing, which is when I entered the Ministry of Finance, completely innocent of any knowledge of markets, it was Shashank as my director who initiated me into a lot of what I'm doing. So a personal word of thanks to Shashank and a request to him to speak about FSDC and its role in education of consumers and investor protection. Over to Shashank.
Thank you, sir. Respected Director General NCR, Manoj, Dr. Bide, representatives of many financial regulatory agencies, ladies and gentlemen. Globally, the triad of financial inclusion, financial literacy, and consumer protection has been recognized as an intertwining theme, which is essential to keep in mind while pursuing financial stability. For any kind of stability, whether financial, economic, political, or social, inclusive growth is an essential prerequisite. And inclusive growth, in turn, is largely driven by an inclusive financial system. Thank you, sir, for inviting me to speak on a subject which I think is very important for inclusive economic growth. We may start our exploration with the first principles. What is the role of financial literacy in the overall financial consumer protection framework and in achieving inclusive growth? So as a complement to the financial inclusion, financial illiteracy aims to build people's capability to use the financial products and services. So considering its importance in further developing the financial sector, institutions involved in delivery of financial products and services contribute to our financial literacy agenda. This entails devising appropriate products and services, pricing them reasonably, understanding the risk, communicating it to the consumers, and protecting the consumers. The strengthening of consumer protection provisions in the financial sector laws of late, there has been a conscious effort on the part of financial regulators to focus more on consumer suitability approach along with disclosure-based bias behavior approach. And this awareness has come about from the increasing theoretical and empirical evidence that disclosure and consumer awareness may not facilitate rational decision making. This is caused due to limited consumer rationality on account of information overload. The behavioral economists, including those advocating libertarian paternalism, focus on intelligently designed financial products and consumer suitability metric to nudge financial consumers to achieve optimal outcomes. In this context, I refer to a recent meta-study of 168 research papers, which cover 201 prior studies, that show that financial literacy efforts may be of limited use and value and may not have any significant impact on consumer behavior, emphasizing the need for revisiting and supplementing the bias behavior approach. If we look at the global regulatory developments in investor protection, we find that most common approaches that have been pursued to enhance consumer protection and address potential conflict of interests include enhanced disclosure, targeted reforms to improve the seller-consumer relationship, imposing statutory best standards and fiduciary duty on financial product suppliers in terms of fair, efficient, and transparent treatment. General 38 principles of securities regulations, which are based on 3 objectives of securities regulation, which are protecting investors, ensuring that markets are fair, efficient, and transparent, and reducing systemic risk. In India, with a view to strengthening and institutionalizing the mechanism for maintaining financial stability, enhancing inter-regulatory coordination, and promoting financial sector development, the Financial Stability and Development Council was set up by government as the apex level forum in December 2010, which has inter alia mandate of financial literacy and financial inclusion. So recognizing the importance of spreading financial literacy, the first policy document, the first national strategy for financial education, 2013-2018 was released in 2013 to give strategic direction to financial education and financial literacy initiatives. And as my previous speakers have spoken, The second NSFE document was prepared under the aegis of the technical group of the subcommittee of the FSDC on financial inclusion and financial literacy, and which has been launched recently. I am not going to spend too much time on explaining the strategy, which has already been explained, that it adopts a 5C approach. What I want to emphasize is that the financial literacy has to be combined with the strengthening of of the consumer protection mechanisms to achieve the optimal outcome of inclusive growth. So while coordinating efforts of the government and financial FSDC as the apex body is expected to be guided by its mandate to achieve financial sector development, inclusion, and financial stability, and therefore to strengthen the financial consumer protection mechanism. So in view of this, I wish to conclude here now by saying that we may now focus on imparting financial literacy and creating awareness which really empower financial consumers, along with other supportive policy and legislative measures to achieve the inclusive growth. I hope that the series of NCR's webinars to discuss the national strategy for financial education will definitely enrich our understanding and facilitate our national efforts on consumer protection in financial sector. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saxena. Yesterday, you had the full meeting of the FSDC, and I know you have budget meetings currently underway. I appreciate your time and the effort in joining us, and look forward to more collaboration with the FSDC and its subcommittee on these activities. It is now my privilege to call upon Mr. Manoj Pandey. Manoj is at present Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and CEO of the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority of the Government of India. He previously has served as Commissioner of Income Tax and Additional DG and Advisor at the Competition Commission of India. He has been part of the Advance Pricing Agreement team under the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, negotiating transfer pricing agreements with multinational corporations. He has been on deputation with different ministries and departments of the Government of India, including Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance. He has been part of several international delegations on behalf of the government for conferences organized by the International Competition Networks, BRICS, and UNCTAD. He holds a bachelor's degree in law and a master's in business administration. May I now request Manoj to speak on an important area of IEPFA, in fact, the key area for which the IEPFA has been created, namely investor education and protection efforts of the authority. Over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, sir. Respected Dr. K.P. Krishnan, IPFA Chair Professor, NCAER, Shri G.P. Garg, Executive Director, SEBI and Chairman, NCFE, Dr. Shashank Saxena, Senior Economic Advisor, DEA and Secretary, FSDC, Dr. Shekhar Shah, Director General, NCAR, ladies and gentlemen and participants of this webinar. So at the outset, I would like to thank Honorable Governor, Reserve Bank of India for sparing his valuable time to deliver the keynote address in this webinar. The presence of Honorable Governor has highlighted the importance of this webinar and its objectives. We all are aware that financial literacy, education, and financial inclusion are essential drivers of any country's socio-economic development, growth, prosperity, and overall well-being of its citizens. It is therefore essential that adequate policy measures are taken and effectively implemented in these areas. OECD has defined financial literacy as not only the knowledge and understanding of financial concepts and risks, but also the skills, the motivation, and the confidence to apply such knowledge and understanding in order to make effective decisions across a range of financial contexts to improve the financial well-being of individuals and society on the whole, and to enable them to participate in the economic life. As we all are aware, as per Standards and Poor Rating Services Global FinLit Survey, carried out and which has been studied by Laura Clapper, Lusardi, and Peter Van, around 3.5 billion adults globally, and most of them are in developing economies, lack an understanding of basic financial concepts. The countries with the highest financial literacy rates are most of them are developed countries: Australia, Canada, Finland, Germany, Israel, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom, where more than 60% or more of the adults are financially literate. Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark have even higher literacy rate. It's about 71%, which has been reported. The report also brings out that India is having 24% of our population as financial literate. As was spoken earlier, as per the survey conducted by the National Center for Financial Education, only about 27% of Indians are financially literate. When we talk about states, in states like Gujarat and Goa, the percentage is stated to be more than 50%, while in other states like Bihar, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Sikkim, the literacy rate, financial literacy rate is less than 10%. Now, this is onerous task on all of us to take this number upwards. A lot is required to be done, and all regulators working in this area need to do a lot more and to put in a lot of efforts. In this direction, as it was spoken earlier, NSFE 2020-25 has rightly recommended a 5C approach, that is content, capacity, community, communication, and collaboration. Now, where does IPFA stand in the whole picture? I believe that Investor Education Protection Fund Authority is uniquely placed since it has got necessary legislative mandate to perform three tasks: investors' education, awareness, and protection, apart from refunding unclaimed shares, dividends, and other amounts. To inform, the authority has refunded shares and dividends more than rupees 450 crore in last 2 years. In addition, keeping in view the mandate given to it under the provisions of Section 125 of Companies Act 2013, since its establishment in September 2016, the authority has taken several steps towards investors' education, awareness, and protection. Through MOUs and arrangement with CAC Governance, Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, India Post Payment Banks, professional institutes like ICAI, ICSI, banks like Bank of Baroda, ICICI, Kotak Mahindra Bank, IndusInd Bank, the authority is continuously striving to spread the message of the need for enhanced level of financial literacy and education. The authority, through these multiple channels, is spreading the message across rural, semi-urban, and urban areas using various means like leaflets, handbooks, short films, and digital media. Investor handbook was published last year, providing insights on various investor products. The portal of IPFA has a variety of resource materials like Bachatnama, which talks about individual budgets, bank accounts, saving products, the capital market products, Ponzi schemes, government schemes, insurance, and various pension products. The authority has launched large-scale programs to boost investors' education, awareness, and protection. Already, more than 50,000 investor education programs have been conducted in rural and urban areas by the institutes and partnering organizations like CAC Governance. The authority has also taken various initiatives with a view to reaching out and connecting with the stakeholders through various digital platforms. The social media accounts of IPFA were activated on major platforms for better citizen engagement. And it has been now decided to build a mobile application to disseminate the information. And we are hopeful that within the next 3-4 months, this mobile application will be on the Play Stores. The IPF research chairs at Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs and National Council of Applied Economic Research are undertaking research on economic and regulatory issues to suggest policy interventions and address possible gaps. The authority had also commissioned a study on financial capability and financial literacy, which was conducted by IICA, that is Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. The research was conducted with more than 11,000 investors from 20 Tier 2 cities across 20 states, with an objective to assess the level of financial knowledge, financial behavior, and financial attitude of the investors. And the target group included people working in unorganized sectors, blue-collared employees, middle-class investors, women, senior city investors, that is more than 55 years age, and financial fraud victims. This webinar, organized under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Krishnan, the NCAR IPF Research Chair, comes as a breath of fresh air towards charting the roadmap for a sustained, long-term, focused attention on investors' awareness and financial education. The address by Honorable Governor has provided directions to all engaged in this process, including IEPFA, to undertake various further steps to achieve its overall objectives. It is heartening to inform that the Reserve Bank of India has accepted the request of IPFA for participation in the meetings of technical group on financial inclusion and literacy, set up as per the decision of FSDC-SC, when the activities undertaken by IPFA shall be discussed. In conclusion, my proposition is as follows. We all know that lack of financial literacy is of acute concern and needs immediate attention. Thus, all agencies and regulators must collaborate. Because what we have heard so far, that all agencies are targeting rural, semi-urban, urban masses, and also covering different groups. So collaboration with all of us, with other institutions, will help avoid duplication of resources and efforts to a joint implementation and action. An action plan may be devised in this direction. IPFA, having been given necessary legislative mandate, will be too keen to work with all regulators and agencies. Investing in investors' education, which is the topic for the day, means investments to enable the country grow and prosper and to make society socially and economically stable. Not only uneducated, poor, and economically backward people require financial literacy and education, but from our experience, we can say even the middle class and the affluent class would also require proper knowledge about the various financial products. Mission mode on the lines of national literacy mission programs. It is now time that we undertake our national financial literacy mission program to cover rural, semi-urban, urban areas and target with a specific target groups to make India a truly financially literate and financially capable country, so that the goal of $5 trillion economy is achieved. With these words, sir, I'll conclude. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Krishnan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manoj. Sheikh sir, then with your permission, shall I just take exactly 1 minute, since we are running a little behind schedule, to brief about the next steps and then hand it back to you? Yeah, thank you. Thanks again to all my 3 invited speakers of session B. And my greetings to all the assembled invitees and participants in the seminar. I'll very briefly touch upon the next steps that we are planning in this webinar series. Our effort over the next few months will be to now hold workshops with every financial sector regulatory agency, and we will have experts and consumer activists who will be participating in these to discuss these 2 documents, the NSFE and the survey results in depth, and flesh out sector-specific action plans for sort of assisting in implementation, and also be able to present a consolidated action plan to the FSDC subcommittee. The first of these webinars on securities markets is now tentatively scheduled to be held on 21/12/2020, that is 21 December, from 10 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. Shri Tarun Bajaj, Secretary, Department of Economic Affairs, has kindly agreed to provide the keynote address in this webinar, and whole-time member of SEBI, Shri M. Mahalingam, a very experienced and wise regulator with years of experience of RBI and SEBI work in this area, and also the whole-time member in charge of this subject in SEBI, will chair the discussions. Likewise, Dr. Subhash Khuntia, chairman of the IRDA, has consented to be the keynote speaker in the second webinar on the insurance market, which is likely to be in early January. Separate detailed announcements of these webinars will follow. But I think the more important and happier announcement is that these are being designed as sort of instructed and guided by our DG as much more public, much more participatory, and much more inclusive events. We will have scope for participants to actually contribute in terms of discussions, questions, and I look forward to the continued involvement, guidance, and support of all 3 of the panelists who spoke in session B, and in not only in the coming series of webinars, also in other activities of my unit as well as of NCAER. The 3 of you represent sector agnostic entities that transcend sectoral boundaries of finance and are, I think, very well positioned to address these issues in a comprehensive manner, which, as the governor himself pointed out today, is necessary. Let me once again thank all of you for this and hand over the proceedings back to DG Shekhar Shah.
Thank you, Dr. Krishnan. And let me start out also by thanking Dr. Garg, Shashank, and Manoj. And I particularly want to recognize IPFA's tremendous generosity in setting up the chair and then the appointment of Dr. Krishnan to the chair, which makes this whole event and the succeeding events possible. So again, Dr. Pandey, Mr. Pandey, please, thank you so much for this generosity on, and I think we are seeing the way in which your investment in this chair is hopefully going to lead to very useful results as we go forward. I really don't have more to say. We look forward very much to the next webinar workshop on the 21st of December. I will request our young associate, Sunus Usman, to please give a vote of thanks.
Oh, thank you, sir. I, on behalf of organizing team, extend a hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing this event with your presence and sharing your valuable remarks and emphasizing the importance of consumer education and protection in finance. We look forward to seeing you all in our forthcoming events. Coming to the end, I would also like to thank communications team and the Office of the Director General for all their support and cooperation for this event. Have a nice day, all of you. Thank you.